Alright, we're here walking up the driveway. We got kind of a nice entrance to the property. Gently sweeps up this terrain here. Comes around the corner. You can start to see the timber framing through the tree line here. It's pretty awesome. So we're going to take a little walk around, check out the timber framers. They got back to work this morning, so they didn't get back to work. They started working. So we're going to check out what they're doing, what they're up to. Well, check it out. We're in the Adirondacks. We're in Keene Valley, New York. Last time you saw this project, Matt and I were marking out the site. We were laying out the corners we got here. So now we've got Timberbuilt stepping in and framing this project up for us. Let's take a look inside. Check out the timbers that they'd thrown up yesterday. So we're here. It's about 6:42 a.m. We're just up before the timber framers come back. We wanted to get our eyes on the project a little early. We got in late last night. Didn't really get to see it too much because it was pitch black, but seeing it in the morning light it's really awesome. You don't get to see projects like this with the roof not on, the timber's exposed to the skylight. It's pretty awesome. And he wanted to build this carriage house first on the property. It's first phase of 2. It's going to be there's an existing house that we're going to be redoing into a new house, and they're going to move here permanently. But right now he wanted to get this settled so he can store his cars here, kind of have that place for storage to make the house go smoother. We've got timber framing if you want to look up above. This monitor style barn, it's got like a dual level, upper roof and a lower roof, and we've got this opportunity in between the roof planes to do these sweet window openings. So that'll really help filter some light down into this space. The original concept of the plan is to have 3 garage bays up front, kind of where I'm standing here, with 2 10x8 doors on either side with a 12x8 door in the middle. This larger door is going to line up with a nice hobbyist car lift, so he can pull in a car, put it up high, kind of present it to the upper area of this, and then there's a loft that'll be in the back there where John's standing. So that way he can go up in the loft, he can kind of get all the light, natural light pouring in through this garage, be able to see all 3 or 4 of his cars. It'll be a really sweet space when it's done. Yeah, we've had some challenges on this job in the design process. So one being, this project started as a pole-built design. We were leaning into maybe stick building it, juggling some feasibility on what was worth it in this area. Ultimately, we decided to go with this Timberbuilt option, which I'm glad we did because it's just amazing. It's next level compared to both of those previous building methods. And one challenge that presented is, obviously we've got to take into consideration the timbers. These are pretty sizable timbers, so when we're talking about the nitty-gritties of the plan, when we get into areas that are a little more confined, especially door openings, we had to kind of take a step back and make sure that these openings worked with what we had in place prior. And one issue that we ran into early on when we switched to timbers was this door opening here. So this is open above, so obviously we can't have the door 90 degree above your head. We've got a car lift here. It would kind of, hit that, contact that, so that was a no-go. So our next available option was obviously go vertical. So we had plenty of room to do so. The only thing was the timbers. They kind of pulled in our plan a little bit from the size of them because the SIP panels get attached to the outside of them. So we had to take a step back, kind of widen this main core. I believe it was by a good 8 inches, just so we had enough room for the overhead door tracks to clear past those timbers up high. Just trying to avoid some, future headaches down the road on site. Another thing that could have easily been overlooked was these side garage door bays. These are going to open a little bit more traditional, where they're 90 degrees and overhead. And we obviously added this 14-inch depth in timber right below the roof plane. So that was contacting down at this low point what would be the track. So taking the time to just really go through the plan, kind of mull over some of those original ideas when you switch to a new building style is important, so you avoid future headaches. Because if this was too low, if this bay was too narrow, figuring out overhead doors would have been, 1, costly, and 2, kind of not ideal to have a successful project. And as you can see by the timber design, Timberbuilt was so generous to give us a multitude of options as far as timber layouts. We kind of gave them a rough idea of what we were looking for. They came up with schematics for many different options. We ultimately landed on a timber option that was a little bit more simple on this lower level. The prominent big basically timber rafters landing on the lower wall lead up to a little bit more detailed, a little bit more timber or narrower timber spacing up high. So when you enter the space, it's a little bit more open, and you kind of get that focal point up high where the timbers really start to take over the project. So we're going to take a minute, check out the surrounding area, maybe get down into the brook. All right, this spot should look familiar. You've seen one of our last videos. A little drizzly, a little foggy. Me and Matt were here last time. We were trying to show off the view, but the fog was all in this brook and valley here. So we've fortunately got a really nice day now. Kind of get a view of the sight lines we're working with when we're designing the residence part of this property. Got a nice big mountain over there. That's one of the Adirondack 46 high peaks. Got a nice exposed rock face on that. You could tell that was a real prominent part of the original cabin, as they've got this massive picture window facing that view right off their living room. Obviously some of the trees, some of the brush was probably trimmed a little bit more back in the day, really capitalizing on that view. Later down the line, probably gonna end up clearing some of this out just to really get that view how we want. Off the back of the house, drops off real steep, and you get a nice sight line down into the brook. Get some nice moving water down in there. Get another nice mountain in the distance. And in Keene Valley here, we're nestled in between some of the bigger mountains in the Adirondack Park. This is really one of the historic towns of the Adirondacks. It's one of the kind of few areas that still has a lot of the original historic buildings in the area. So it's really cool that we get to work on a project on an existing cabin that's been here for such a long time. I'm sure there's a lot of great family memories and stuff in here and on this property. So it's really nice to capture some of that. This residence has some really important features that we want to incorporate into the new design, or at least keep the memory alive in some capacity. There's a really nice river rock fireplace in the front of the house, and we're going to use that fireplace as kind of the anchoring to the original house. So the new design is going to have an exact replica of that fireplace, similar stone. We're probably going to use some of the stones from the original and put it in the new one. This cabin is in honestly too rough a shape. The first time we visited the site, we wanted to see what portions of the project could be reused ultimately, with, as you can see, foundation issues. It's pier and beam built on these cinder block piers. There was just too much to be done to revitalize this, and money was likely better off spent just starting new. But to keep some of the essence alive of this original cabin, like I said, that fireplace, we're gonna incorporate that in the new design. Keep it generally in the same location too, so when you enter the property, it's still one of the main focal points. That'll really help ground you to the original roots of this place. It'll give you the essence that the new house is built on the same footprint of the original cabin. Let's take a walk down to the brook. As we walk around the north side of this carriage house, you get a view of that corner where the gym's gonna be. So they can walk out their gym. They could do some yoga, stretching out by the brook here. Do some outdoor workouts. This whole corner is quite private from the street, from the rest of the properties. So it's really a secluded area to come. Well, send it. Doing good back there, John? Hoi! All right. So this is John's Brook. So this is the part of the video where we just give you free ASMR, as the brook just sounds great.